Hello, my beautiful whaley kittens. I'm not calling you whales because like it's just like a whale video and that, you know what I mean? But yeah, in this video we're going to be seeing how to whale on Xianyun or Cloud Retainer. We're just going to be taking a look at her weapon and her constellations. We're going to explain them and see if they're worth going for and at which order or not. So yeah, let's begin. Alright, so starting off with her signature weapon, Crane's Echoing Call. Pretty much what this weapon is going to give you is going to be a super high base attack, which is good for like your attack bonus and your healing and stuff like that for everything, and also your damage obviously. And it's gonna increase your party members' plunging attacks, which is like the whole thing with Xianyun. I'm sure playing her as a support, you'd want to be doing plunging attacks with your main DPS, so yeah. And then the main thing is gonna give you energy, which is very good with Xianyun. So throughout this whole video, I'm not really gonna be comparing Xianyun's damage or anything like that because her damage is not even all of that anyways. So it doesn't really matter in like terms of comparing weapons and all of that. It's more like other stuff. So I didn't really do any damage calculations for Xianyun herself. But yeah, either way, this weapon is definitely going to be the best weapon for damage even. I haven't really done any calculations, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the best. But it's not really going to be by a big margin, and even if it was, her damage as a whole is not even that big anyway, so it doesn't matter. Again, the most important thing this weapon gives you is going to be the energy, which is super good, and also the plunging attack extra bonus. That's also very good. So it's going to result in more damage as a whole for your whole party, which is pretty good. The thing is though, when we compare it to other weapons, damage wise, you can definitely have, closer damage weapons. For example, the Skyward Atlas, if you have it, or the Memory of Dust or whatever. All of them are going to give you like huge amounts of attack, which is super good. So in terms of damage, it's going to result in around like similar numbers of damage. And as I said, her damage as a whole is not even that big, so it's not going to matter. It's pretty much the same thing for damage. For energy though, it's the same thing. There are free to play options like the Favonius Codex or the Outsworn Eye or whatever. These can also, give you enough energy for your team and fix her energy problems as a whole. The thing is though, there's no weapon in the game right now that can do the both things at once, which is give you, enough damage and also fix your energy problems. So if you're using like the Skyward, you'll probably want to use like an ER Sands or have, very good substats in your artifacts or whatever. You just want to make sure you have enough energy. It's going to be a problem. The Skyward is not going to help you out with energy at all. And same thing with the Favonius. If you're using it, then your damage is going to be lacking. It's not that much attack and stuff like that. So basically what I'm saying is that what her signature weapon does is it's going to give you good damage and fix your energy problems both at once. That's what makes her signature weapon special. It's also going to help your main DPS with even more plunging attacks damage, which is pretty good. But the thing is though, as I said, her damage as a whole is not as big. So you can just fix her energy problem and run a free to play like energy weapon like the Favonius Codex or the Ember's Herd, Haction Ring, whatever. Just fix her energy problems and then yes, her damage is going to be lower, but who cares? It didn't matter anyways. Yes, you're going to be losing on some like damage bonus and stuff like that, but as a whole, her weapon is definitely not like necessary. It's definitely very special and no weapon can compare to it in terms of like doing everything at once, but it's definitely not necessary as like a signature weapon. So that's mainly everything about her weapon for now. Now let's move on to her constellations and see them one by one. Alright, so starting off with her C1, it's pretty much just going to give you one extra charge of your elemental skill. That's just some extra damage and most importantly more energy, which is also going to fix your energy problems if you have her C1. The only problem with that though is that it might mess up like your rotations because her skill is going to take quite a bit of long time. So if you do it 2 times, they're definitely gonna, take a little bit of longer field time. And in some teams, not all of them though, in some teams this can be cool, but in some teams it might cause some problems and cause DPS loss, especially with more like selfish DPSs and stuff like that. Generally speaking, it might be a DPS loss. Again, in some teams it's going to be pretty good, or at least doesn't matter. And then it's also going to fix up your energy problems, so it's going to be pretty good. But in some teams it might cause a problem. Either way though, I would say generally speaking, it's going to be a net positive. Even in teams where it can cause problems, you might just, alter your rotations and it can work. And then you wouldn't really have to worry about like energy problems at all, which is going to be pretty good. So yeah, generally speaking, as a net positive, I would say it's a good constellation. Again, it really depends on the team and the rotations and stuff like that. But generally speaking, a lot of teams is going to fix up your energy problems and that's going to be pretty good. So yeah, I would say C1 is good. Her C2 is going to give you attack when you use your elemental skill, 20% attack, which is pretty good on Xianyun. She likes attack a lot. And then it's gonna buff up your passive. It's basically just gonna double it. It's gonna increase the plunging attack by 400% instead of 200%. And the maximum damage increase is gonna be 18,000 instead of 9,000, which is huge. So yeah, the main thing from this constellation is just gonna be more buffs to your plunging main DPS. And that's like her main thing. She's a support to plunging main DPSs. So it's definitely gonna be a very, very good constellation on her. I would say C2 is definitely very good. C3 is gonna increase the level of your elemental burst. It's pretty much just more damage and a little more healing, which doesn't really matter really. Her damage is not even all of that, as I said before. Her healing is gonna increase it, but it's whatever. So yeah, generally speaking for C3, I would say it's not as good. C4 is pretty much just healing, that's it. And again, it's not even, you know, it doesn't really matter. She already heals enough already. Yes, it's gonna make her a better healer, but I don't think most people are gonna care. So in my opinion, for C4, especially if it was like C1 or whatever, I'd say, okay, cool. But for C4, it's definitely not really worth it in my opinion. So yeah, C4 I would say is not good. C5 is gonna increase your elemental skills level. It's pretty much just more damage. But as I said before, her damage as a whole is not gonna be, you know, huge. So it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't really say it's worth it. I'd say C5 is not good. And now finally we have her C6. It's pretty much just gonna give you 8 plunging attacks you can do with her instead of 1 with her elemental skill. And it's also gonna increase the crit damage of your plunging attacks. So for a support Xianyun, like a normal Xianyun in her normal teams, this constellation doesn't matter. You don't really want to be plunge attacking with her herself. You just want to be using her to buff your main DPS's plunging attacks. So it's not really gonna matter for support Xianyun, but it's gonna be pretty good if you want to play her as a main DPS, or even necessary, I would say. So C6 just really unlocks a new playstyle. I don't really know if it's like good or not. It just unlocks a new playstyle. So if you want to play her as like a main DPS, then it's gonna be necessary. It's not like good, it's just necessary to even play her. If you don't, then C6 is just gonna be completely useless pretty much. So yeah, for C6 I don't really know if it's good or not. It just unlocks a new playstyle. If you want it, then go for it. If you don't, then you don't need it. That's it. It's just one question. Do you want players in main DPS or not? That's it. Alright, so now for the final conclusion, how should you whale for Xianyun? In my opinion, in my personal opinion. Alright, so it depends. The first thing is, do you have a good attack weapon? And by a good attack weapon, I mean just a 5-star attack weapon. And there are pretty much only 2, so it's either the Skyward Atlas or the Memory of Dust. If you have one of these, that means you can go attack on her and maximize her damage. But the problem is, she's gonna lack energy. So if you already have one weapon of those, in that case you can go C1. And C1 is gonna eliminate her energy problem. So her energy problems are going to be gone, and then you're using an attack weapon. In that case, you have a much better Xianyun. You're already getting the high attack from one of these weapons, so there's no need to go for her weapons to fix her energy problems. Because obviously we know constellations are going to be cheaper than weapons, so might as well just go for a C1 to fix her energy problems, and then you're good. Now, if you don't already have a good weapon, a good attack weapon specifically, in that case, you might go for a signature weapon. Because her signature weapon is going to fix your energy problems and be a good attack weapon, which is pretty good. And it's also going to buff, you know, your DPS's plunging attacks, which is even better. So yeah, whether you go C1 or R1 is going to depend on whether or not you have a good attack weapon or not. If you already have a good attack weapon, just go C1 to fix your energy and you're good. If you don't, then might as well just go for her own weapon and fix her energy and attack at once. That's it. After that, either way, you'd want to go C2. C2 is going to be pretty good. It's just going to be buffing your, you know, main DPS a lot more, which is, it's always a good thing to go for. So C2 is definitely going to be the second step from either way you went for. And after that, I really don't think you should go any further because it quite literally doesn't matter. The rest of her constellations, as I said before, is just whatever. There really isn't much, you know, there except for some extra healing and some extra damage or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. Also, her weapon refinements are not even really as good unless you're going for like straight to R5, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. So yeah, I honestly think you should just stop at C2 R1 if you really want to invest in her. She's definitely not a character that's going to scale well with like investment. You're just going to gain pretty much the full benefits if you just C2 R1 her. That's it. Just get her C2, get the maximum damage bonus, get her weapon, fix the energy problems and stuff like that, and you're good. Even her weapon is not really necessary if you have her C2. Unless obviously you want to play her as a main DPS, then you can go for C6 and unlock a whole new playstyle. That's another story. But for a normal support Xianyun, C2 R1 is going to be the maximum you'd want to go for. I would say even if you're a whale, it doesn't really matter because you're literally just wasting your money. So yeah, that was the video guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video. Peace.